Imagine a man who for the past 17 years was killing people, and no one ever even suspected him. He lived a normal life. During the day, he went to work, talked to people with a smile, came back home, spent time with his family. But as soon as night fell, he became something else. A person who searched for his victims, trapped them in his web, and then made them disappear forever. And the most terrifying part, his victims were never found immediately. Their bodies were found years later at the same place, a lonely beach where, under the sand, were hidden many secrets. And when the police started digging there, what they found shook the entire country. Not one, not two, but many bodies, one after another, as if someone for years had been burying them there. And then one name came forward: Rex Heuermann, a man who, by looking at him, no one could ever say that he could be this dangerous. But the question was, if he was the killer, then how did he manage to stay free for 17 years? How did he hide his crimes so perfectly? In the beginning, no one had any idea that this case would become so big. When the first body was found, the police thought maybe this was an isolated case. But as the search moved forward, another body was found, then another. And within just a few days, 4 bodies were recovered from the same area. Now it was clear this was not an accident. This was the work of a serial killer. But the most terrifying part was yet to come. When the police collected information about all the victims, a strange pattern appeared. All the victims were women, and most of them were connected to escort services, which meant the killer was not choosing randomly. He was carefully selecting people whose disappearance would not create immediate noise. And that was his most dangerous move. Some victims had disappeared years ago, but their bodies were found years later at the same place, as if the killer murdered them somewhere else and then brought them here to bury them. And every body was found in a similar condition: hands and legs tied, wrapped in plastic, as if everything was planned in advance. Now the police understood this was not an amateur. This was someone who planned every crime and avoided leaving evidence. But there was one thing that kept coming up again and again. Every victim was last seen in contact with an unknown man, and that contact was usually through phone calls. But when the police tried to trace those calls, nothing clear was found, as if the killer changed his identity every single time. Now this case had become even more dangerous, because the killer was not just smart, he was using technology, and every time he was one step ahead. But the police didn't know that the man they were looking for was closer than they could ever imagine. And for years, he had been living right in front of them, as a normal person.
As more bodies were found, the fear kept growing. Now this was no longer just a case. It had become a nightmare. The police increased the investigation, teams were formed, every possible angle was explored. But the more they moved forward, the more this case slipped out of their hands, because the killer was not an ordinary person. He was taking every step very carefully. He was never directly traced. He never met his victims. in a direct way. He made calls, but every time, a different phone, a different location, as if he already knew how the police worked and how to confuse them. Slowly, investigators realized they were looking for someone who was not just dangerous, but highly intelligent. But the most terrifying part was yet to come. Some victims' family members said that they sometimes received unknown calls when they answered. On the other side, there was a man speaking slowly, and then he would laugh, a cold, slow, terrifying laugh, as if he knew he would never be caught. And then he would say, "You will never find her," and the call would end. Now, this was no longer just a murder case. This had become a psychological game. The killer was not just killing people. He was playing with the police, challenging them, and every time he was winning. Years passed, 2011, 2012, 2013, but no name, no face, as if he had disappeared into the darkness. But the truth was, he had never gone anywhere. He was still there, among people, living as a normal person, during the day, meeting people, smiling, talking, and at night, hunting. And that was the most terrifying part, because no one knew who they were sitting next to, or who they were working with, or who lived next door. And maybe he could be around you too. For years, this case remained just a mystery, and the police had bodies, a pattern, but no name, no face. And then, in the year 2022, something happened that changed everything. The police started re-examining old evidence, this time with new technology. Every small detail, every old record was reviewed again, and then a small thing came in front of them, a phone number, a number that had been in contact with several victims. Earlier, this number could not be traced, but now technology had advanced. The police tracked that number, and it led to a man who was living a completely normal life, an architect named Rex Heuermann, a family man, for neighbors, a simple person, but for the police, now he was a suspect. They began secret surveillance. Day and night, his every move was being observed, where he went, who he met, what he did, and slowly, piece by piece, everything started becoming clear. His phone location matched with victims' locations. His online searches were very strange. He repeatedly searched things that a normal person would never search, like how to dispose a body, how to avoid police tracking. Now, the police were becoming sure that they had found the right man, but the most terrifying part was still left, because when the police dug into his background, they discovered he had been living two lives for years that everyone could see, and the other that only came alive in the darkness. And now, only one step was left, and to catch him. But the question was, would he be caught so easily, or would he, once again, escape from everything? The police were now sure that the man they had been searching for years was right in front of them. But catching such a dangerous killer was not easy. They needed solid proof that would make sure he could not escape. And then, one day, they got that chance. For months, the police had been watching Rex Heuermann, his every move, Every step was being recorded. And then a small thing changed everything. He threw away a water bottle in a public place. The police quietly picked it up, and from it they got a DNA sample. When that DNA was matched with old evidence, the result shocked even the police. It was a match. Now there was no doubt left. He was the one, the Gilgo Beach killer. A few days later, the police arrested him. A normal day when he was going to work. He had no idea that today his 2 lives were about to end. But the real horror was just beginning, because when the police reached his house, what they found was no less than a nightmare. From the outside, everything looked normal, but as soon as they started investigating inside, they found things that could make anyone shiver. Strange notes, old records, maps, and details that only a killer could know, as if everything was planned. Every victim, every location, every move, all of it was decided in advance. And the most terrifying part, he had been doing this for years without anyone suspecting him. A man who looked normal, but inside, a monster. Now, the whole world had seen his real face. But one question still remained. Was this his full truth? Or was something else still hidden in the darkness? Rex Heuermann was now in police custody. The truth that had been hidden for years was now in front of the world. People were shocked, afraid, and most of all, confused, because one question kept coming back again and again. Was he alone, or was there someone else? In this story, the investigation continued. New evidence started coming forward. Some investigators believed that carrying out crimes so cleanly for so many years was not easy for just one person, but no solid proof was ever found. And that is what makes this case even more terrifying, because if he was not alone, then where are the others? Are they still walking free, or are they still hiding among us? Rex Heuermann was presented in court. He was charged with multiple murders, but even today, some cases remain unresolved. Some victims are still without full answers, as if this story has not ended. It has just paused. And the most terrifying part is this: people like this do not always look dangerous. They can be around you, in your city, in your neighborhood, or very close to you. A normal face, a normal life, but inside, a darkness no one can see. And that truth is the most terrifying of all, because the real fear does not come from ghosts. The real fear comes from those who look human, but are not. And maybe tonight, when you try to sleep, this question will come to your mind. Are you really alone, or is someone watching